Welcome, everyone. This is Recovery Dharma. My name is Julia. I'm one of the facilitators of this beautiful Sangha, and I just want to extend an extra warm welcome to all of our Kalyana Mitras and teachers here today. Friends who have been gathering for years, friends who are gathering for the first time. Just an exceptional moment of gratitude for your presence here today. When we explore pairs of opposites, dualism, and how they live in our minds and hearts and in our personal experience, one of the things that is worth exploring is the motivation fueling our understanding. Why bother understanding how dualism lives in me? Well, the answer for me is black and white thinking limits my capacity to see the world in its much broader presentation as being incredibly gray. That is not to say that the pairs of opposites alive in me defining black and white thinking aren't true. They are. They are simply not representative of the truth. The truth is what lies in between, including those pairs of opposites on the extreme ends. So understanding our motivation, and my motivation is to look at all of it so that I can live with ease, so that I can suffer less. And ultimately, my greatest aspiration is to be of service, to learn how to love without exception, to learn how to express compassion when I'm most challenged. And one of the ways I do this is understanding duality, pairs of opposites, and non-duality. What is in between? For me, a way to step over the threshold of black and white thinking into the gray zone, which is pretty big, can be a little intimidating, is to first understand the conditions, the causes and the conditions of the dualistic experiences I'm having. So, for example, if I want to understand how fun lives in me, I look at the meaning of fun for me. What are the conditions in my life where I experience a sense of fun as I've just defined it for myself? What are the conditions in my life that limit my fun? And limit my fun or inhibit my fun in such a way that I begin to experience fear. This is why I brought these two together as opposites. It's an unusual pairing, I'll grant you. And when you start thinking about it, it's so true. It's so alive in me. When I'm doing something fun, but then it gets to an edge, suddenly it's not fun anymore and I'm afraid. And then I look at my fear. What does fear mean to me? How do I define fear in my lived experience? What are the stories I tell myself when I'm in fear? What are the conditions that cause the arising, the sensation of fear to emerge in my body and mind? I'd like to give you a first person experience. So, years ago, when I was living on the west side of Washington, I did a lot of camping in the northern Cascades. Beautiful, outback, backpacking, the whole 9 yards. A lot of fun until it wasn't. And it was fascinating to see the things that weren't fun for me in nature. So the fun things hiking were the views, the expansive nature, the departure from the city and the busyness of my life, the quiet, the people that I was with, the challenges that I put myself into and could overcome. All of the sights and sounds and smells were so wonderful in the woods and mountains. But there were certain things that I encountered that every time either threatened my fun or took away my fun. And they almost always were connected to fear. I was confronted with things that scared me. And the condition of that fear was almost always related to being afraid for my life or something happening to my body, being injured. I was out there in the woods before the era of cell phones. So when we went out backpacking, we were really out there. And I discovered about myself a fear in all of that fun was I do not do well around raging water, fast moving, cold water. I do not enjoy the sound of it. I don't enjoy the sight of it. And I especially loathe having to cross it on slippery, fallen logs with no ropes or rails or anything. Just me and balance. And the only way to continue on the hike was to do that activity. No fun for me. I was with people who could dance on those stupid logs, skip, have no issues whatsoever, which only added to my sense of fear because sister to fear for me is anger. And so I would see them having fun where I was experiencing fear and it would infuriate me, thus stealing even more of my fun. How dare they not be scared like me? How dare they not change the conditions of this raging river to address my fear? Nonsensical. So I have to work with that fear. I had to work with the impermanent nature of fun. This is not fun. And for me, it was not fun. But that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be fun again once I made it over the river. And it always was. So there are two concepts I'd like to introduce and plant as seeds in your minds about working with fun and fear, working with knowing and not knowing, honesty and omission, trustworthiness and deceit. And that is the nature of impermanence. Everything is subject to change. And so I had to learn the ways that I cling to my fear And when I'm in fear, I have a tendency to make it linger longer than it needs to. And I ruin my own fun. I also have this capacity to want to hold on to the fun and sort of ignore the reality of what's going on. So learning that things change. My fun's going to be suspended for a period of time. Fear is going to arise. I have to look at that. That's going to fade. And then something else will emerge. Everything is subject to change. Nothing is permanent. The second seed I'd like to plant in your mind as you continue with this practice is the concept of interconnection. Everything is connected to something else. And this is the practice, one of the practices that I apply the mantra, just like me. So while my companions, my twin brother to be specific, had no issue crossing rivers, he had no fear whatsoever. Just like me, however, he had an unsettling fear of bees and could not tolerate a single bee near him. Part of that was motivated by an allergy to them. They truly are scary to him. So while the details of our fear differ, the experience of fear and the way it inhibits fun are the same, just like me. And the reason why we practice that and we recognize our connection is because it teaches us, it gives us an opportunity to explore patience, compassion, self-advocacy. So there were times where my brother would be very impatient with me. He would say things like, "Juge, we got to get over the river. Come on, hurry up. You can do it. You got this." And my fear was so great that his attempts at encouragement were not very motivating. I felt pressured. I felt hurried. And really, I don't know that there was anything that he could have said. I just had to work with it in my own time and in my own way. And so I had to be patient with myself. I had to be compassionate with myself. And I also had to remind my brother, hey, just like me, you have some fears and you need to work with them in your own time and way. I need a minute. I'll get there. When we can see the ways we're connected to one another, when we allow enough presence to be patient, when we allow ourselves to be compassionate, wow, I have fear, you have fear, we are the same. We can apply it to everything. We can look at somebody who's lying to our face and say, wow, you are not being honest with me right now. And that is frustrating and painful. And just like me, I have had times in my life where I haven't been honest. What were the conditions of that? Maybe I can shift them in myself so that you can feel safe to be honest with me. Maybe we encounter somebody who doesn't trust us. Just like me, I've encountered people I do not trust. Can I understand the conditions of that and maybe shift the conditions within me so this person can feel more safe? Maybe I can become a more trustworthy person. Maybe I don't know how to do that yet, and maybe that's okay. That's why we practice. So let's take a moment together, friends, and let's simply look at this light-hearted pairing, fun and fear. Fear isn't all that light-hearted, but let's put it in the context of like nervous excitement, butterflies in the stomach, that anxiety that you know you're going to be okay, but you're fearful and you're nervous, and then you can get to the other side of it and have fun again. Think of something in your life that challenges you. Maybe it's a sport. Maybe it's public speaking. Maybe it's revealing something honest to your therapist or your lover or a friend. Maybe it's making an amend. Take a moment to see the conditions of fun and fear in your life. See what emerges, see what arises, and go with it. Friends, to be a little bit more specific as you continue on with this practice and putting this into the context of negative habit energy and fear. In the fun side, we can begin to look at an honest look at our relationship to negative habit energy and how it's changing and maturing and shifting away from negative to something more skillful, something more positive. And we can make that exploration, we can make that examination fun. We are changing. We are not the same person, and our habits are changing as well, and we are learning new tools, and that's amazing and fun. And right beside it is fear. Fear of recurrences, fear of judgment, fear of not being able to repair damaged relationships. That's all very significant as well. What are those conditions? And simply being able to observe them gives us insight to new ways to heal them and transform them. Over time and with practice. Be gentle. Be loving. Be curious. And let's end our practice today with a dedication of merit. Fun and fear, just like me. Patience, compassion. How do these things come alive in you? How do they ripen? How do they flower? As Matt shared so wisely today, can we put down the rigidity of our conditioned minds and just work with something new, see with new eyes? Real eyes, REALEYES, real eyes, new things. It is a practice, friends, and your practice inspires me, and may what inspires me become your practice. Thank you for this beautiful time together. We'll see you tomorrow. Namaste.